but I do read them after the show, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So I was saying the three sons of Philip IV all failed to produce surviving male heirs to the French throne. Pope Clement V took an opportunity, since he was now free of any Knights Templar debt. It went with the outlawing of that organization and the killing of their leader, Jacques de Molay, in March of 1314, on an island, of course, in the River Seine in Paris. Kind of connects with Utea, the island of Utea in Norway, doesn't it? When those three sons of Philip IV could not produce a male heir, Clement V refused to influence to Philip IV's brother, Charles of Valois. Instead, he backed, as king, Henry of Luxembourg, whom his representatives, I said before the break, were crowned emperor at the Lateran in 1312. In those days, you see, the Pope crowned kings. But when Henry of Luxembourg's family came into conflict with Robert of Naples, an aristocratic Italian family related to the House of Capet, Clement supported Robert of Naples and threatened King Henry of Luxembourg with a ban. As Pope, of course, he could ban Henry of Luxembourg from being king. But guess what happens? An Illuminati event. Surprise. The crisis passes because of the unexpected death of Henry of Luxembourg, soon to be followed by the unexpected death of Pope Clement V himself, who died, or should I say was killed, on April 20th, as I said, 1314, Hitler's birth date. So I already brought that to your attention. By the way, cause of death for the executor of the 23rd and last Grand Master of the Knights Templar, who lived the order from April 20th, yes again, Hitler's birthday of 1292, right up until the Knights Templar was dissolved by his order, is listed as unspecified. Cause of death? Unspecified. At this time, remember, the Vatican was having enormous financial trouble. They were forced to begin selling many assets. They were using borrowed money lent to them by the Knights Templar. Many assets were sold. They taxed the people heavily to try to make up that shortfall. How did the Vatican get into this financial trouble, you ask? This desperate condition of the papal finances was caused by Pope Clement V saving up gold for a crusade while spending lavishly on pomp and ceremony on himself. Now, when I just can't believe that they have outlawed, well, not outlawed, but have not made history a compulsory subject to take in schools anymore. Because all throughout history, you can see a pattern, and it teaches you so much of what's past is repeated again in the future, in the near future. And maybe that's why they don't want you digging around in history, because you see there's really nothing new under the sun. It's simply history repeating itself over and over, as I like to say on A View from Space on AM 640 Talk Radio, meaning that all of the events have already been acted out in history and are just coming around again to do the same thing. As you can see with this financial backdrop, that this whole Knights Templar Anders Breivik situation, bringing up the Knights Templar, and how parallel it is. It's just absolutely mind-boggling that people don't want to study history to see what went on in the past. Clement V showed unabashed favoritism toward his family too when he was in these financial straits. He brought untold disaster on the Catholic Church. Even their version of Clement V's story will tell you that. There had already been 9 main crusades against Islam in the Middle East up to then, and 5 minor crusades. The Vatican was involved one way or another in all 14 of them up to this point in history of Clement V. In all, there had been 20 wars that had been called crusades by the writers of history, and we all know who they are, don't we? I mean, the writers of history. The winners write the history books. Throughout all of history, there have been 20 crusades that have been waged. That is not counting the most recent one, which will make it 21, the royal number, breaking down to a 3. You know when the 21st one started, don't you? It's the one that began in yours and my lifetime. Yes, your lifetime and mine. The first shot of the 21st Crusade was fired on September 11th, 2001. This Illuminati event was staged to begin the 21st Crusade, which is to pit the 3 monotheistic religions of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity against one another, to demonize them and wipe all 3 out. The 21st Crusade will be known as the Third World War. There would be 3 world wars in the plan to bring about this one world government. We have already had 2. The Harry Potter books run concurrent with that. It's the same exact scenario in the Potter books at Hogwarts, the School of Wizardry and Witchcraft. So you see, you can understand why the handlers of Anders Breivik programmed him to do what he did in Oslo bombing and the massacre at Utøya. Twin attacks, just like the Twin Towers. Get it? The attack on Utøya, by the way, being touted as the deadliest attack by a single gunman in recorded history. And I don't believe that for a moment, that he acted alone. He had to have had help. I don't even know how they can make that statement without considering the evidence not yet even gathered in the inquiry as to the actions of the Norwegian police. Evidence such as that which has already come out. For instance, the police calling Anders Breivik by his name when they arrived on the island of Utøya. And he promptly, on hearing his name from the police surrendered as soon as he saw them, despite having ammunition left. It's because he was programmed to quit when the authorities called his name. And then there's this report witnessed not just by any traumatized and confused witness youth, but firemen who said they heard shots after Breivik was already in custody of the Norwegian police. Not to mention the fact that the press flew by helicopter to the island of Utøya, and the police drove. Breivik and his accomplice or accomplices were given 90 minutes to do their damage, unmolested by any police. run up the death toll as high as possible. That's why Breivik was very interested in the final death toll and explicitly asked how many dead there were. And yet another example of how almost every major terror event is accompanied by a security drill focused around the same scenario that actually happens in real life. Oslo police were actually conducting a bombing exercise at a location near the Oslo Opera House just 48 hours, 2 days before a terrorist blast hit the government building in the Norwegian capital of Oslo. According to the translated version of the Aftenpost report, anti-terror police fired explosive charges at a training center in Oslo, 200 meters from the opera, but forgot to notify the public. Well, they didn't actually forget. The exercise occurred on the Wednesday, July 20th. The act was perpetrated on the Friday, July 22nd, 2 days before. It revolved around anti-terrorist units attacking a disused building at the edge of Bjørkva Pier with bombs and firearms. The police lowered themselves down from the roof and in through the window that had just been blown out while they fired on with their weapons, states the report, noting that the exercise was dramatic, produced violent bangs, and was actually watched by spectators at the nearby opera house. Unbelievable. There's even a video of the drill that accompanies the story, showing police scaling the side of the building with an explosion going off below them before they entered the window and started firing. The police had to apologize publicly for not informing the public about the exercise. Spaceman AM 640, back in a moment. On A View from Space. This is Talk Radio.